Blessings. Although Maxine Einstein is only 16, she quickly bonds with seniors Candy, Honey, and Taffy because the cheerleaders also love The Wizard of Oz. Warning to the humor impaired. The Einstein sisters Bag the Flying Monkeys is political satire. Maxine reached around the lunch table and intertwined the Christian girl's fingers with her own. I respect your religion. You have a right to your beliefs, but beliefs have consequences. If you support Israel's military aggression toward its neighbors, you must own up to the pain that it causes. Is that what your great-great-grandfather Albert Einstein believed? Asked Candy. Of course, Maxine replied. He thought Jews, Muslims, and Christians should share the land of Palestine. After all, that's what they'd been doing for more than 1,000 years, until the beginning of the last century, when the first European Zionists began colonizing Palestine and squeezing out the natives. 65 years ago, when Albert Einstein arrived in the United States, Zionists were a tiny minority of America's Jews. Maxine asked, what Jew would want to move to Palestine? It was mostly desert. There were no delicatessens or theaters. Jews like Grandpa Albert, Yip Harburg, and Harold Arlen were secular or Reform Jews. Many condemned Zionism for returning Jews to the ghetto instead of Jews becoming a beacon to all nations. That's what the Bible means by Jews as the beacon to all nations. It refers to the diaspora, or all the Jews spread throughout the world. We call it assimilation, and it's been going on for centuries, said Maxine. Who knows? You girls might have Jewish ancestors. After listening with fascination to Maxine, Candy, Honey, and Taffy exchanged looks as if to say, we should be so lucky. Maxine claimed that assimilation was good for Jews and good for their adopted countries. Look at what Nazi Germany lost in Jewish skills and talents. That's what Grandpa Albert thought. They offered him the presidency of Israel, but he refused, she added. I think he was afraid that Jews might become like the Nazis if they bought into the same kind of tribal mentality and the same racist myths. His mind grasped how easy it is for the victim to switch roles with the oppressor. Maxine, Honey interrupted, we don't know who Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen were. Maxine explained that Harburg and Arlen were the men who wrote the lyrics and music for MGM's 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz. She asked, have you seen it? The girls puckered their faces and looked around for the Ten Commandment school's always-present surveillance cameras. Honey whispered, we saw it together as kids and loved it. Our preacher says it's sinful, Taffy explained. Honey quoted Leviticus 19:31, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. We don't believe in wizards, said Candy. It's just a movie. Maxine laughed. You're right. In Leviticus, wizards represented pagan threats to the Israelites' monotheism. They weren't comical characters. You guys love the movie because it exemplifies my favorite Jewish values. She cited the love of home, hospitality toward strangers, faith in the innate goodness of all people, the power of releasing untapped talents, hope for a better future, and the vulnerability of evil against the power of human solidarity. Maxine had a bizarre imagination, and her Grandpa Albert's impish sense of the absurd. What if Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz had been a Nazi? Maxine speculated with a very Jewish sense of humor. And Nazi Dorothy would have given the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion military uniforms and rounded up the Munchkins to send to death camps. She would have formed an alliance with the Wicked Witch. claimed the wizard was oppressing his people and manufacturing weapons of mass destruction. She would have bombed the Emerald City to smithereens. Taffy, with twinkling, curious eyes, asked, "What if Dorothy had been a Zionist?" Maxine paused to think. If Dorothy had been a Zionist, she would have had the Scarecrow, Cowardly Lion, and Tin Man circumcised and sent them to Hebrew school. She would have convinced them that they were members of a lost tribe of Kansas, destined to transform the land of Oz into Greater Israel. She would have armed them with M16s, driven the dwarfs from Munchkinland into refugee camps in the haunted forest, set up strip malls and delicatessens, and placed army checkpoints on the yellow brick road. When the four girls stopped laughing, Taffy exclaimed, "I can see why you're proud to be Jewish. After listening to your rap, I certainly would be." Maxine smiled. "For me, Jewishness is a mindset. It has nothing to do with the quality of one's blood or the religion of one's mother, much less mindless support for Israel. We Jews have compassion for all underdogs because we've so often been one of them ourselves." That's this week's story from the Church of the Poor Little Children Who Will Inherit the Earth. Coming next, March 23rd, Karl Rove, War Salesman. Can't wait? Visit the web. Check out the book.